Good evening, Mr. Bond. I've been expecting you. The other day I was at this local antique/collectibles store, sifting through the record collection they have in the back. And I was mainly looking at movie soundtracks. And I came across this gem, the original motion picture soundtrack to the 1965 James Bond 007 film, Thunderball. Now, Thunderball's not really one of my favorite films in the series, but at $6.79, that's a deal I simply could not refuse. I don't even have a record player, but if I did, I'd probably listen to the Thunderball soundtrack once or twice. You know, if there's one thing to know about me, it's that I fucking love James Bond. Not just the character, but the franchise as a whole is my favorite film franchise of all time. And I was thinking to myself, why have I not been watching James Bond movies recently? Why haven't I been thinking about James Bond? I don't think about much other than movies, so Bond's usually pretty high on my list of priorities. Why is Bond not on my mind? The answer is honestly pretty obvious. There hasn't been any news surrounding the 007 franchise in nearly 3 years since the release of the last film in it, No Time to Die, which, ironically enough, has seemingly left the franchise dead. Well, if you saw the title of the video, you know that my question is simple. Where is Bond 26? In recent years, sequels have generally taken a lot longer to come out than they used to. I mean, think about it. Avatar 1 and Avatar 2 took over 10 years to make. Totally worth it. It's gonna be 7 years in between the last Avengers movie and Avengers 5. Why? Kevin Feige might as well be using money as toilet paper at this point. The Bond series is no exception to this sad trend in Hollywood. There was a 6-year break in between Spectre and No Time to Die. 5 if you don't count the pandemic, but even then, it took them 5 years to come up with this. I mean, even before that, there was 3 years in between Skyfall and Spectre, again, to come up with this.
The man inside your head is Ernst Stavro Blofeld.
And then another 4 years between Quantum of Solace and Skyfall, although in that case, they did need to go back and regroup a little bit after this. Ugh. I don't even know what I was just watching there. No good. No good. The thing about the Bond series that makes it my favorite franchise of all time is that they aren't meant to be thought-provoking films that take years and years to make. First and foremost, the point of Bond is escapism. The formula that was followed by almost all of the films in the Bond series before the Daniel Craig era that made it so successful was that audiences knew what to expect. One key word, that being fun. Where is the fun in James Bond? This could honestly be the subject of its own video, but for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna say that Bond movies really shouldn't take years and years to write because they basically write themselves. In my opinion, Bond movies really only need to take about 2 years to make, maybe 3 at the most. Even if Barbara Broccoli really wants to reinvent the character, as she has said so many times, it shouldn't really take as long as it has. Think about it. No Time to Die had finished production in 2019 and wasn't released until 2 years later. Plenty of time to have at least come up with some sort of plan, at least a concept of a plan, for what they're going to do with the next James Bond. And EON hasn't even nailed down an actor for the role. What is happening? Think about it this way. Dr. No, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, and Thunderball were all released in a 4-year span and are all considered to be some of the best films in the series. Personally, I would say Dr. No and Thunderball don't really belong in the same conversation as Goldfinger and From Russia with Love, but the point still stands. 6 Bond films came out in the 1960s. 5 came out in the 70s. Another 5 in the 80s. And even after skipping the first 5 years of the decade, 3 films came out from 1995 to 1999. That's 19 films in 37 years. In the last 25 years, we've only seen 7 films, and only 2 of them are ever even mentioned in a conversation of best Bond films. Casino Royale and Skyfall, obviously. The great Cubby Broccoli ran the company in a workmanlike fashion, focusing on quantity over quality, yet most of the time managed to keep the quality relatively high. Barbara Broccoli, on the other hand, is a much different story. She struck gold with Casino Royale, absolutely fumbled it with Quantum of Solace, which isn't totally her fault, or the producers or the director for that matter, but the film still stunk. Had to reinvent the franchise again with Skyfall, then fumbled it again with Spectre, then took 5 years to end Daniel Craig's tenure on a pretty sour note. He died in the movie. The current model at EON Productions for producing Bond films seems to be quality over quantity, but the quality has been pretty low and the quantity has been even lower, so what's the point? The Craig era was full of dull, dour, and derivative films unlike anything from the rest of the series. Sure, the Bond films were always influenced by popular films of the time, but at the same time pioneered the spy genre and the action genre and transformed it into what it is today. When the series tries to emulate certain directors like Christopher Nolan or mimic action direction from films like John Wick, it's time for a change. Bring back the style of Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman, or at the very least, hand the reins over to somebody else who has a clear vision for what they want this franchise to be. Barbara Broccoli has repeatedly said that she doesn't want to step on Daniel Craig's tenure, as if that's something the Bond series has ever been concerned about in the past. The same woman kicked out Pierce Brosnan from the role when he still was at peak Bond performance. They didn't give his tenure any time to breathe. To me, it seems like the Broccoli's, specifically Barbara, are uninterested in making James Bond movies. And to me and many others in the fandom, it's a really sad thing. We need a fun James Bond film in cinemas. It's been too damn long. Also, why the hell was there no 60th anniversary Blu-ray box set? I was really hoping that I could get a set with every film from Dr. No to the end of Craig's tenure with No Time to Die. Missed opportunity. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos, here's a video right here. Or maybe it's over here. It's one of these spots. This has been Jack Roney, the movie guy, signing off.